I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. And putting this presentation together over the last few days, I realized that this is a really huge topic to try to cover in 20 minutes. So I've decided to focus it on a few key pieces of information and hopefully leave some time at the end for Q&A, because everyone has a very distinct business model and very distinct use for these paid social media platforms. So I'm going to get started and try to get through the presentation with time for Q&A. So, every social media platform is in the business of making money off of advertising. Honestly, even compared to Google, which makes a large percentage of its revenue from advertising, social media platforms actually make even greater percentage of their revenue from advertising. It's close to 95 to 99% for all these social media platforms. So they're constantly evolving the way that they offer paid promotions, and in a lot of cases, they're also making it more difficult to get reach and engagement organically. In other words, without having to pay. So, I could spend 20 or 30 minutes really on any of these platforms going into how their promotions work. But I want to talk a little bit more about just kind of the core of what these platforms allow you to do. So with Twitter, they have 3 different levels. You can promote an account so that it gets more followers. You can promote a tweet. Those 2 are the most common for specifics for small businesses, because the third option is promoting a trending hashtag, which costs something like $200,000 a day to be trending across all of Twitter. So that's obviously only for massive companies. But to promote an individual tweet, you can start with a very small budget. Promoting your profile can also start with a small budget. Pinterest has a variety of options. You can promote pins. You can also do some special kinds of pins that aren't really as available inside of the native Pinterest. You can do like what are called animated pins, which are basically kind of a flip book of images that make the promoted pin have a little bit of motion to it, which makes it stand out from the organic ones.
Keep going.
Yeah, I'm still on the slide, but yeah, thanks. And I'll go back one. Yeah, thanks. Instagram, you can run ads on the Instagram feed, on people's feeds, and those look a lot like they're mostly coming out of Facebook advertising, so they look a lot like Facebook ads. But just recently, in the last couple months, Instagram added native advertising where you can actually develop ads inside of Instagram and boost specific Instagram posts. Now, basically, Instagram's platform is photos and videos, and you can boost them across to a wide variety of demographics. I'll get more into how you can target people in a little while. Facebook, like with the other topics, could spend an entire 2 hours talking about all the different options of Facebook advertising. I believe it's the most robust digital marketing platform on earth. And we go much deeper into that within our online school, but I'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the presentation. LinkedIn allows you to promote extremely niche, content to extremely niche professional audiences. What I mean by that is LinkedIn knows so much about people's job history, their education, how long they've been with companies, what they do, what their skills are, what they've been endorsed for, and you can pick and choose any of those categories and promote content to those people.
So there is one question we have coming from Sid, and the question is, are the ads in Instagram related to the store features that he's noticed? And Sid, I just wanted to clarify, are you saying the store features inside of Instagram that you're noticing? Because Instagram is basically right now doing major upgrades to their system with the business pages, and they're adding a variety of different things. I haven't seen anything directly store related, so I'm assuming yes, they are related. I'm not sure we could say how right now.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough active experience yet with that, but I'm not surprised at all that they're moving in that direction to promote content tied to e-commerce and to buying things. They have to move in that direction. And I think we had another question come through about LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, too, the other thing about Instagram is I think based on Leah's presentation, one of the things you're going to see with all the social ad platforms is they're really moving into how they can help your ads convert better. And so adding things like store features can really enhance that. And yeah, Michelle was just saying, can you go over opportunities on LinkedIn to boost content? Does that exist?
Yeah, and actually that is, in my experience with LinkedIn, that's the best use of it. So if you have content on your professional business profile on LinkedIn, meaning like a profile for your business, then you create an ads account in LinkedIn and you select which content you want to promote, and then you build an audience inside of an audience builder inside of LinkedIn to target that, whom you want to reach with that piece of content. They do have other types of ads. They have text ads. They have promoted opportunities, which are for specifically promoting for job openings. But all the work I've done in LinkedIn advertising has been promoting content marketing pieces, mostly around professional conferences. So I could target very specific professional community about an event that we figured they would be interested in attending. So yeah, that's definitely possible, and you do it. It's most easily done through content first published on a business profile, a business pages profile. So I want to just throw this out there that before you can create a budget for social media advertising, you have to know what your lead captures are worth. So as Leah was talking about in the last presentation, different ways to track conversions and increase the number of conversions. If you're going to invest in driving people into those conversion pages and funnels on your website, like that Leah was describing, you have to know a little bit at least about the lifetime value. So in other words, you have to know what percentage of your email list converts into customers later, what percentage of your leads turn into business and what a new client is worth, what percentage of targeted traffic that comes into your website converts to one of these goals. If you don't know these numbers, then it's really hard to know what a click is worth and whether or not you could afford to spend what it costs to get a click. The worst case scenario is that you don't know these things, you spend a bunch of money on social advertising, and you get a bunch of traffic, and not enough of them convert, as you haven't implemented some of the ideas that Leah talked about, or other more advanced ideas, and you get some business, but it's not enough to cover the cost of the advertising, and you have a negative return on investment. That's common. I mean, we've seen it ourselves trying to market our institute, where we spent money and gotten some business, but not enough to cover the costs. And that's the ultimate game we're trying to play here, is trying to find the right targeting, find the right call to action, the right collateral. And it's difficult because these platforms are always changing, the competition is changing, so you have to be savvy and stay on top of it. And so I'm just trying to provide a high-level overview of some of the data that I can share that's comparing the platforms. So here is once you can figure out what a click is worth, then you have to determine which platform might be able to deliver clicks within that price point. And all the research I've done and my personal experience has been that Twitter and LinkedIn are the most expensive, and that on Twitter it can cost anywhere between $1 and $3 to get a click, and anywhere between $2 and $4 to get a new follower on your account. That's very expensive. I mean, that means an extra 1,000 followers might be $2,000 to $4,000. That's a lot of money for a Twitter follower. And clicks, that's pretty high. $1 to $3 per click. That is relatively high. Now, most of these platforms, Twitter included, they track engagement. So when you're paying for advertising, it'll tell you the cost per engagement. But engagement includes retweets, hearts, and replies, as well as clicks. So you might see an average cost of engagement in the 50-cent range, but if only 1/4 of those people are actual clicks on the content driving traffic to your website where the actual conversion would take place, then you might be, in that scenario, you'd be spending about $2 per click. Of all the platforms I looked at to prepare this presentation, it looks like it's possible to get the cheapest clicks off of Pinterest. So if you have a product that is appealing to the Pinterest demographic, which is skewed female, skewed a little bit younger, like maybe between 20 and 45-year-old women is the primary demographic. They're obviously men and obviously older women and younger women on there as well. But if that's your target audience and you have a visually appealing product, then or service, I think that might be a good place to try. And we've seen really good results with Pinterest advertising. In one case, for a company that made green home kits or green home designs, we did a great content piece up for them, promoting on Pinterest, and they were in the, I think, 75-cent range for clicks, but they had also good conversions to leads on their website. So they were getting leads at a reasonable price especially for the price of their product. Currently, I don't have enough Instagram ads running to get a good calculating cost per click. Also, because a lot of their newer types of advertising are so new. Not that long ago, you ran ads on Instagram through Facebook, and you'd get clicks on Instagram straight to your website. But you couldn't get. It was really hard just a few months ago to get actual website traffic on individual grams on Instagram. Now they have. They're adding new features like a swipe. You can swipe up on an image and it'll take you to the associated website link. And they're also adding, as Sid mentioned, they're adding e-commerce advertising options, which I'm not super familiar with yet. On Facebook, I'm seeing website clicks anywhere between 40 cents and $2. That's a sort of an average, and a lot of times you're able to get them under $1 still, but that price seems to be rising across all of our clients. A year ago you could often get 50-cent clicks, and now sometimes 75 cents is difficult. For new likes on a page, we're still seeing some clients at 20 cents, and some clients as high as $1.50. When it gets that high, I tell them it's not worth it. We usually try to target 40 to 50 cents per like. For our goals when we're doing budgeting for clients, and that would be for $100 that'd be a little bit over 200 new likes, about 220 I believe, so every $100 that they spend. LinkedIn is a huge range. A year ago I would have said that $1 probably wasn't possible, but I ran a campaign last year that actually came in at $1. But I've also seen a lot of campaigns come in right in the middle range around $4, and that's a high average, but it's probably realistically closer to $4.
So we have one question from Annalise I want to throw out there, Justin. You mentioned, knowing what a new lead is worth and what percentage of targeted traffic converts. Mm-hmm. And so Annalise was wondering, how do you determine the answers to those questions?
Well, yeah, so you would do that through Google Analytics, and some of the, it was sort of built into a little bit what Leah was talking about. But if you're driving, targeted traffic, meaning targeted traffic could be very specific organic search traffic. So if someone's searching for, I'll go back to the example of the Pinterest client we had. If someone's searching for a green or net zero home, prefabricated home kit or prefabricated home, and they find your website, then that's highly qualified traffic. And the question is, what percentage of it converts into a lead, and then what percentage of those leads do you convert to buying your product? And you should track the leads converting to buying through, if it's e-commerce, it's just what percentage of people from that traffic source actually check out. And if it's a business to business or like a longer lead cycle, then usually most businesses have a CRM or customer relationship management software that leads are added into, and then they're tracked, and you can see there's 50 new leads and 20 that buy. That would be 40%. If it's 50 new leads and only 2 buy, then it's only 4%. So you have to track that through and then know what those leads are worth as a customer. And if you want to get really sophisticated, you got to know what the lifetime value of a customer is, because some businesses have a lifetime value, and some businesses you really only talk to someone one time. Once they are a customer, they're probably not going to come back. So example, we're working with a company right now that sells knee braces for dogs. The lifetime value of the customer isn't very much more than the cost of one knee brace, because very few customers ever need a second one. There's word of mouth that can happen that creates increased lifetime value. If a customer tells a friend and then they buy one, then that's a very low acquisition cost for that second customer through that original customer. But people don't come back and buy, lots of knee braces for dogs unless they're a veterinarian, in which case they might. There's different values for lifetime values for different types of customers. But it's important to know that that most likely one customer is going to buy one $200 knee brace, and so we know we need to get that customer in for probably less than $20 or $30, because otherwise it's going to be a loss. After customer service and manufacturing, fulfillment, and overhead, they have to make some money on the sale. So in that case, we want to drive traffic, much less than that per click, and convert the right percentage to make it add up. So if we're getting $1 clicks, we want to get a $30 acquisition. We need 1 out of every 30 people buying, and that's about 3.5%. So we need 3.5% conversion rate on qualified traffic at $1 a piece to get there. In that scenario. So when your product is less than $10, it's very difficult to get a positive return because you're seeing here clicks are often about $1, and so you need if you wanted to get a positive ROI on a 50% of your cost of your product, you have to get 1 out of every 5 customers to buy when they come to your site, and that's a high percentage of conversion. That's 20%, and that's 20% is unusually high. Most websites don't convert to come and paying for anything at 20%. We see 20% conversions on sweepstakes signups, get email addresses, free downloads. We see 20 to 40% on those kind of things, but that's just to get someone's email address, and then only a percentage of them will actually ever open your emails and buy anything from you. So it gets complicated when you have multiple kind of ways you get customers in the door. So I have about 10 minutes left. I want to go through a few more slides. So the more you know about your target audience and their social media behavior, the more strategic you can be with your ads. So one of the worst ways, one of the most common ways and worst ways to waste money is spending money to try to distribute social media content and then get clicks from people who are never going to buy because they aren't your target audience. And one of the values of social media is that you can get really granular and very specific with how you target people on all these platforms. And some are more granular and more specific than others. I think Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook are really granular for getting to individuals for events, for products, and a little bit less effective for services. For services, I think LinkedIn can be more effective often, but it's also fairly expensive. So you better be selling something with a high value and a good way of converting that, a strong content marketing approach. On Twitter, we do it mostly for conferences. We find it valuable for professional conferences, but we don't do a lot of Twitter advertising for other types of businesses. So this is I think the last slide before the questions. Again, I could spend a lot of time breaking down what the platforms are capable of as far as targeting. Twitter, you can target geographically, so you can show it to Twitter users in a certain city or area. Interests, which basically is an aggregation of what people tweet about and what profiles they follow. Demographics, which includes their age, their gender, other things of that nature. Keywords, which is targeting what people are searching for and what people are also tweeting about. And then followers, you can target the followers of a specific account. So if you know everyone who likes Oprah is a great fit for your business or your new book or whatever you're working on, you can target specifically people who follow other accounts. Very similar on Pinterest. Pinterest, you can target people who are audiences of specific accounts, searching for specific keywords, or interests based on their boards and what they've pinned in the past. So if they have a lot of pins about recipes and you have a new recipe book, you can make sure that the people who have the type of food you are writing about in their boards, you can put your ads in front of them when they're perusing their kind of their feed. Instagram has mostly the same targeting as Facebook because they're now the same company. And Facebook is so deep, I can't go into it right now because of the time restraints, but the interest level targeting and the demographic level targeting is deep. One area where it's a little bit light is professional job categories, and that's where LinkedIn has carved out their own niche. Because with LinkedIn, you can do industry, skills, job title, years on the job, education, and all that's and a lot of other demographics and so much more. Whereas on Facebook, you can only target someone's job title and their education and what they studied in school, which is only 3 of about 30 or 40 things you can target on LinkedIn. So that is, I think that's the. One more slide. I'm getting close on time here. Remarketing. So remarketing is when you market to people who have been on your website before. You install some tracking code, and as people visit your site, no matter how they find your site, if it's through search engines or email or direct traffic, then they're added to a list on the specific social media platform, and then you can run ads on that platform that only appear to people who've been on your site before. And I do not recommend it for Twitter. We haven't tested it, but Pinterest does offer it, and I can see where it would be really useful for e-commerce websites and other websites that fall specifically into the really common niches on Pinterest, like event planning, travel, e-commerce, home goods, weddings. Those are the main some of the main ones, recipes and food. Instagram, again, not hugely recommending this yet, although I'm still learning more about what's capable there with especially the new e-commerce features. Facebook, it's a great way to use Facebook advertising. We use it for most of our clients, especially conferences, events, e-commerce. And LinkedIn, we're testing it right now for conference clients, and I think it's a good option as well. So costs are going up. Facebook costs for clicks and impressions have increased by 150 to almost 200% in the last 2 years. That should continue to creep up. I'm hoping it's plateauing a little bit now, but we'll see. So small businesses need to be extremely selective with their social media platforms. In my opinion, it's about doing 1 to 2 platforms really well versus trying to be diverse and diversifying across lots of platforms.
And we do have one question here that actually went with that last slide.
Okay.
From Jada, which is the most effective platform to advertise businesses and events, not necessarily physical, tangible products. So basically, she has a B2C company that's promoting like services from different businesses as well as events. And she just wondered kind of what might be your take on, choosing those platforms.
Well, for B2B services, I think you would probably eliminate Pinterest and Instagram, and then play with testing on Facebook, LinkedIn, and possibly Twitter. Twitter's good because if someone's searching for recommendations for a specific service, you should be able to get content in front of them. And if you offer a service that helps them select a vendor or select a provider, that could help. That could be useful. LinkedIn, you're going to run up, your costs are going to get really high if you're trying to promote a lot of different things on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's effective, in my opinion, for promoting like one really clear thing, like in a specific conference.
And I think they're B2C. I think it's going to depend on whether or not the services are appropriate for business people.
Yeah. So the services they're providing are consumer services mostly.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think Facebook and Twitter then. I would probably drop LinkedIn. I would think Facebook and Twitter would be the way to go. And maybe just Facebook for a while, but also I would test Twitter as well.
Yeah, and then we have a really great question from Patrick, which is essentially, with LinkedIn, we often run into low available numbers of people to target because of how niche our industry is, but the ones we do get are really well qualified. Would you recommend broadening the targeting parameters to get a lower CPC? I believe the cost is usually lower when the audience is bigger, even if most of that broader audience aren't likely to lead to candidates.
Well, in my opinion, you don't necessarily get a lower CPC with a broader audience. You get if you're using, there's 2 different options on LinkedIn of how you pay for the ads: cost per click or cost per impression. If you have a broader audience, you can get lower cost per impression, and then your cost per click is just you're not paying by that metric. And I think that's how I got the low cost per click for this one campaign. I just happened to hit on a really great piece of content to an audience of about 10,000 people in the Northeast, and I paid per impression. And I wanted to reach as many of them. I had a couple $100 budget, and I just happened to get a lot of clicks, like extremely high click-through rate. And therefore, since I wasn't bidding on the cost per click, the clicks were as cheap as they could be with, based on the number of people who saw the ad and clicked on it. If I had bid per cost per click, I'm sure LinkedIn would have charged me more. But they won't even run the ad if you choose a $1 or $2 cost per click. They usually set the minimum at like $3 or $4, and the minimum for reaching 1,000 impressions is usually set in the $20 to $30 range. So I just went with the cost per impression option and got a really good cost per click. But it can backfire if you do that and you bid on cost per impressions and get a super low click-through rate. Then you'll end up spending a really exorbitant amount on the clicks. You could end up spending $15 or $20 per click if you spent $30 a day and only 1 or 2 people clicked on your content. So yeah, it is. It's an interesting game, but they won't let you go much lower than $4 or $5 per click on the bidding, and they'll try to get you a lower price, but you won't see much better than about 50% of what you bid. So if you bid 5, you might see 250 clicks. That's about as best you can see. That's part of the challenge of it.
So just to sort of round out on Patrick's question, you would suggest that they don't broaden things. They leave it more targeted and qualified. Or do you think it's worth testing some stuff out?
I think it's worth testing. Like if you broaden it out and set a low cost per click that you're willing to pay, then LinkedIn might run the ads. It might run them and let everyone see it, and you only pay for the clicks you get. And then LinkedIn will automatically through their algorithm try to find the right people, which is when you allow this is a good point. When you allow the social media platforms to let their algorithm do the work, they're designed to help you find the right people. So Facebook does it really well. Like if you put in a really broad audience on Facebook and let it run for a while, it'll narrow it down for you and help you find the right people based on what it knows about the consistencies between the people who click on your ads, especially for website traffic advertising on Facebook. So yeah, that's why I said that this topic was so hard to create a 20-minute presentation about, because there's so many scenarios for different businesses and different strategies that we could talk about.
Yeah, and so I think, Patrick, I just want to clarify, and again, let us know if there's anything else you want to ask about this. But I think, the idea is really, if you're not getting what you want out of the campaign currently on LinkedIn, it may be worthwhile to try some of these other strategies, try making the target audience broader, potentially go after the cost per impression and see.
Just compare, run 2 different ads and compare. And I think what you're seeing is that, if you don't have an audience of at least 1,000 people, say Facebook and LinkedIn, I imagine some of the other platforms won't even let you run the ads. They just won't allow you. And that's a newer thing, especially with Facebook. They used to allow you to run an ad to like one person, but I think for privacy settings and privacy reasons, they've gotten rid of that.
Great. Well, we are right at 1 o'clock. So if there are any other questions, we're glad to stay for an extra minute or so and answer them. Yeah, and Patrick's just saying thank you. He's like, test and retest is always the answer. That's true. A lot of times it's about kind of testing different strategies in the beginning until you really get the results you want. But I definitely think, that cost per impression, that was a really good point that you made about testing that out. But again, if there's any additional questions, please feel free to chat them in. We can stay for an extra few minutes. But I want to let everyone else get back to the rest of their day. So thank you all so much for joining us for the JB Media Digital Drop-In. And keep an eye out for our upcoming Digital Drop-In in February. We'll be sending out more information about that when we follow up by emailing all of you the recordings and a download of this presentation. So you can join us next month. And thank you all for being here.